A Call to Arms, the 1990 Bay Area baseball story, with your hosts Bill King for the Oakland A's and Dwayne Kuiper for the San Francisco Giants.
Hey, Bill, congratulations on getting to the World Series again. It sure would have been nice if we could have been there with you.
Yeah, what happened, Dwayne? It was great last year when we were both there.
Well, for starters, there was a little something called the Cincinnati Reds. I mean, it seemed like they had a 10-game lead before the season began. And to be truthful, we just didn't have the kind of pitching you guys did.
Well, I can't argue with you there. Not when 6 guys answer the call to arms for starting pitchers.
You only use 6 starters all year long? Wow. We put out a call to arms too, but with us, 26 guys answered.
Are you kidding me? You had 26 pitchers on the team this year?
Count them, 26. Hey, I'll be glad to tell you about it, but let's start at the beginning. Spring training was delayed by a 32-day collective bargaining deadlock. Finally, the chains were lifted, and as the schedule resumed, players diligently caught up on lost time, getting ready to play ball.
More log. Hey, take some notes and log it. Yeah. Fire! Don't slip, JB. Come on now.
I think our club is the one to beat. I think our club has all the ingredients to repeat, and I think we will.
The addition of switch-hitting free agent outfielder Kevin Baz added more fuel to that optimism, as did the signing of veteran catcher Gary Carter. However, some detractors felt that other clubs had surpassed the Giants, but with a lineup that included the National League's best 3, 4, and 5 hitters, the Giants figured to stay close.
As with the case last year, I don't see anybody running away with it, over the course of the season. And, no matter what the critics say, the San Francisco Giants are going to be right in the middle of the pack.
Yet as the troops assembled for opening day, a reshuffled deck muffled April's battle cry. A call to arms. The home opener sparked an upbeat mood as manager Roger Craig and players were presented with their championship rings. But despite some valiant individual efforts in the early going, the Giants found themselves gathering casualties. They were swept at home for the first time since 1987, dropping their first 8 games at Candlestick. But the Giants hung tough, even with the disheartening personal problems surrounding ace reliever Steve Bedrosian. Another veteran reliever, Dan Quisenberry, decided to call it quits. The problems began to mount at an alarming rate as injuries complicated the picture even more, particularly in the pitching department.
And just as bad as things have become for the Giants, this is one thing that can hurt them even more. Their best starting pitcher at this point going down.
The call to arms became a long roll call for reinforcements. The face of the club began to change, especially the pitching roster.
Here's all our pitchers, what we started with, my God. McGaffigan, I remember him. Napper, I forgot him. Swan was here. I don't know, you can see I start scratching out guys' names, and this list over here changes from names that were here before. Look, see. Then over here, this is probably a different list from there, and I scratch off guy name here because I didn't have any room. Usually, all you have on there is 10 pictures, and I'm using the whole page full, and it goes on the next page sometimes, and it's just amazing. I never had to write so much stuff down, so many guys' names.
One new name to the Giants roster turned out to be a real positive influence. Gary Carter broke the National League record for catchers by passing Hall of Famer Al Lopez's career mark of 1,861 games caught, a real milestone for durability. Gary shared his playing time with another veteran, Terry Kennedy. Both former All-Star catchers were especially effective during a 3-game series in May against Davey Johnson's New York Mets.
High fly ball, right field and deep. Strawberry, it's gone! A grand slam home run for Terry Kennedy.
Of course, being a former Met, Carter had plenty of incentive to apply his own stranglehold on New York.
And with a fastball, foul ball down the right field line. Here comes score. Carter to second. The Giants lead 6-5.
With victories in their first 2 games against the Mets, the Giants saved the best for last, as Kevin Bass keyed a San Francisco comeback in the finale.
Bass hits a fly ball center field and deep. Boston at the fence. Gone! Kevin Bass has just tied up the ball game. He hit an 0-2 pitch over the center field fence.
Then Kevin Mitchell, another former Met, drove the final nail into New York's coffin.
3-0. We'll see if Roger Craig lets him swing. I don't know why not. He does. Long fly ball. This game is over. On a 3-0 count, Kevin Mitchell takes Pena deep.
Yet another veteran with a great attitude, Kevin Bass, who gave the Giants some important contributions in the first 2 months, including a .270 average, 6 homers, and 25 RBIs. But a knee injury that occurred in Pittsburgh put the right fielder on the 60-day disabled list. He spent much of his downtime editing this highlight film. Well, actually, he spent his time productively by analyzing his batting stroke. Another serious stroke of bad luck occurred in Pittsburgh when Rick Russell injured his knee in the same series and was put out of action for 3.5 months.
Well, that's nothing new. The way the Giants have been going this year, you're almost not surprised to see it happen.
Giant injury problems continued, and the roster eventually included 52 different players.
It seems like we've had, a few rotator cuffs and very pulled hammies and backs and, pinched nerves and just about everything major that you can have that requires disables list. And, it's hard when you bring some guys up, especially from AAA, who haven't played, and you throw them right in the middle of the heat of the fire. And, it's sort of on-the-job training. It's tough.
It's a short walk when you win, but it's a long walk when you lose.
The Giants reached another low point in May when they slipped into last place with the worst record in the National League. The team batting average ranked 8th in the league, and the pitching core ranked dead last. San Francisco was down, but not out.
I revel in the fact that over the past few years, Giant fans have had something to cheer about. I'm not very happy about the fact that this year has been a down year for them up to this point. And all I can tell you is that we're going to win again. Things do run in cycles, and our cycle's not over yet. Keep the faith, baby.
I got a giant attitude. I've got a giant attitude.
Things sure picked up in June as the ball club went on a great roll. During the first few weeks of the month, the Giants were having lots of fun with a sizzling record of 17-1. San Francisco was the talk of the league as they moved into second place behind Cincinnati. The winning streak also pulled them above the 500 mark for the first time since the first week of the season. And while the Giants' health wasn't that great, Giant attitude couldn't be finer. San Francisco's good fortune sure put the Reds in a foul mood.
Fastball, base hit to left field. There may be a play at the plate. Here comes the throw. Here comes Matt. And it's now a 5-1 ball game.
In 3 games, the Giants outscored Cincinnati 19-4.
Now the 2-0 pitch to Mitchell, and Kevin swings. High fly ball, center field and deep. Hatcher back at the fence. Gone! The ball game is over. The Giants have won. The Giants have swept the Cincinnati Reds. I got a giant attitude.
The last game against Cincinnati, when Kevin hit the home run, seemed to breathe a breath of life into us again, and it was very fun to come to the ballpark at that time, and that was a special time for us.
As for Matt Williams, well, he went on a 16-game hitting streak.
Well, it's 2-0. San Francisco, man, you hang a curveball to those guys, and it's all she wrote.
A man stepped forth from the shadows to make a big contribution, and his name was Ernest Riles, who connected with 4 pinch hit homers. And Rick Leach also proved valuable. In one June game, he went 4 for 5.
A base hit into center field will get Thompson home. It's a 6-1 game, 3rd hit in a row for Rick Leach. The momentum is all Giants.
The hardest part about my job is to try to keep everybody going. And it seems like you get 3 guys going here, and then 2 guys fall off, and then you go over to these other 2 guys and not worry about them, and another guy falls off. But during that period of time, that was as awesome a displays I've seen in a long, long time. Everybody was hot. Guys on the bench were hot, the regular guys were hot. You know, everybody was swinging the bat great. And granted, you can't expect that all the time, but it was fun.
That's why I'm smiling. I got a giant attitude.
Atlanta Fulton County Stadium was the site of the Giants' most lopsided victory ever, an offensive display that was downright amazing. Rookie outfielder Rick Parker set the tone with 4 hits and 6 RBIs.
Parker rips it to left field and deep. This ball is gone. Rick Parker gives the Giants the lead, and for Rick Parker, his first major league home run. And check out the smile on that young man's face.
The Giants devoured 7 Atlanta pitchers to pound out a club record 23 runs on 27 base hits. Let's also point out Will Clark, who also drove in 6.
Clark with his second 3-run homer of the night, and the Giants lead 19-7.
It's one of those kind of games where you feel so comfortable at the plate that you run into the bad rack. It's okay, when's my next at bat? And I know Rick Parker had a great night that night, and I swung the bat fairly well myself, and I just didn't want it to end. But then again, you got to come out the next day and start all over again.
Speaking of starts, a pair of youngsters who really got off to outstanding debut seasons were left-hander Trevor Wilson and righty John Burkett. Both showed lots of savvy, popping onto the major league scene with a bang.
John Burkett and Trevor Wilson were basically carrying the ball club here. We were relying on veterans to try to get us through the season, and here two young guys came up from AAA, and really they picked up the pitching staff. They did the work. They were the workhorses for us.
By mid-June, Burkett's record was 7-1, rarely showing signs of being intimidated and always throwing strikes. John had enough ability to join the Pro Bowlers Tour, but he proved himself to be a most striking pitcher, too.
At the beginning of this year, coming out of spring training, I was just hoping to have a good year in Phoenix and maybe get an opportunity late in the season to come up and help out, maybe in September, but the injuries gave me the opportunity to come up here. It's just been uphill. I mean, it's just been great the whole time.
Circle change, I just hold it just like that. It's just like an okay sign.
You can give Trevor Wilson an okay for his performance since being called up in May. By mid-June, his record was 5-0. Inclusive in those 5 victories, Wilson hurled a 5-hit shutout against the Cardinals and a 1-hitter against the Padres, making the most of a great opportunity.
Unfortunately, some of our key pitchers got hurt, but it gave John and I a chance to establish ourselves in the major leagues, and hopefully we did that, and things turned around. We started winning some ball games and got in the race.
Perhaps one of San Francisco's most compelling stories in 1990 was the success of the fella named Caveman, veteran pitcher Don Robinson, who rehabilitated himself from off-season knee surgery to win 10 games, once again proving himself to be a player with lots of courage.
The satisfaction to knowing that I made it back to this level of baseball. I mean, those guys that's probably had surgeries that's never made it back to the big league, and I've had 7 of them. I made it back to the big leagues every time.
Just to give you an idea of what kind of competitor Don Robinson really is, the Giants even asked him to pinch hit, and he really came through in a game against the Padres.
And he hits it hard and deep, and it's gone. We've given Don Robinson a lot of credit for the Giants' turnaround anyway.
While Don Robinson stood tall for San Francisco, so did another figure. You might as well call him the Giants' leading man.
things are struggling, when things are down, the club, I think, looks to Will to pick us up. He's the leader on the field as well as off.
Perhaps Will's most standout characteristic is that hypnotic stare, which exudes with confidence and concentration. And while, in a sense, Clark stands alone as the Giants' best all-around performer, his teammates and fans alike find his manner and style most compelling. To say he leads the Giants by example is a truism that merits emphasis. Although Will slashed hits with machine-like proficiency, and even with nagging foot injuries, Clark still expected more from himself in 1990.
Well, you got to get to me before you get everybody else. And, you know, one thing that was great about last year, '89, was the fact that everything went well all season. Very consistent year all along, and never really had a downside. This year had a few downsides.
By season's end, Clark's numbers were formidable by most standards. A .295 average, 19 homers, and 95 RBIs. But for Will Clark, well, those numbers weren't what most have become accustomed to.
It was very much a season of peaks and valleys for me. You know, I swung the bat well at times, but then again, I didn't swing the bat well at times too. So, you know, I struggled a little bit, but if this is going to be my worst year in pro ball, I think I'll take it.
Will Clark is a cut above. Will Clark is not the average player who hits close to 300, who knocks in close to 100 runs, and hits 20 home runs. That's not a Will Clark type year. My hat's off to Will because he shrugged off all the problems and he just went about his business, and he just gave you everything he had, and he just does everything he possibly can to help the ball club win.
And when the Giants did win, the thrill was the man who set San Francisco's offense in motion. The Giants' attitude was furthermore bolstered by the emergence of a young reliever, a call to arms for Jeff Brantley.
Steve Bedrosian has been struggling all year long, and Roger Craig had to make a move. The move centered around this man, and he certainly has responded.
Struck him out. 3 left-handed pitch hitters strike out against right-hander Jeff Brantley.
Jeff was the Giants' most effective reliever, and by the All-Star break, he led the club in saves with 13, finishing the year with a team-high 19. When the All-Star game rolled around at Chicago's Wrigley Field, the Giants found themselves well represented. The National League skipper piloting his first All-Star game was Roger Craig, and Roger was surrounded by several familiar faces, including honorary team captain Juan Marichal, Jeff Brantley, Will Clark, Kevin Mitchell, and Matt Williams. A day before the All-Star game, Williams participated in the home run hitting contest. But as you'll soon observe, comedian Bill Murray upstaged Matt with this smash.
Matt Williams is the type of person I dearly respect, and I like him a lot because he's the type of person that he wants to call all the shots. He's that type of person that he wants to just do it all, and I tell you, he's done it all this year.
With workmanlike consistency. Matt stood tall, driving home a league-leading total of 122 runs, making him the 3rd consecutive Giant player to win an RBI crown. Clark and Mitchell won it in the 2 previous years. The last 3 teammates to do it, Musil, Ruth, and Gehrig.
I think that would be a little bit selfish to put a lot of importance on the RBI title. You know, it's a tribute to the guys that get on base in front of me.
Williams set a club record for a third baseman for RBIs and also tied a San Francisco team record for third baseman with 33 homers. A spectacular year, especially considering that 1990 was his first full season.
Matt Williams now the batter. What a good-looking player he is.
The thing I like most about Matt this year is hitting 280. And once you start feeling the pride in your batting average, that helps you in the rest of your game.
No one ever doubted his glove. The third baseman is a surefire Gold Glove candidate for years to come. He owns a powerful, accurate arm and sure hands.
You look at Matt Williams all year long, and I think he's had a fabulous year. And I know he's not going to be content, but this guy just come on strong, and he's going to get better and better. He'll be fun to manage.
At July's end, the Giants put the pedal to the metal. Fans came out to Candlestick Park with hopeful expectations as the Giants geared up for possibly their most important series to date. The Western Division leading Cincinnati Reds were in town, and Lou Piniella's club was in for a rough ride. The opener set the tone. San Francisco 4, Cincinnati 3, as Jeff Brantley earned the save.
This season, when they came into town, we knew we had to win. And I think this club, when we're at home and we have to win, we usually win the ball game.
Cincinnati jumped to a 3-0 lead the following night, but the Giants battled their way back with Dr. Longball and eventually ninth inning heroics.
Leach, good spot right here to see a fastball. He does, and he belts it high into the air into right field. O'Neill going back. It's out of here. Rick Lee, second home run in 2 nights. And I'll say what I said last night. The Giants are back in it. And Robbie belts it to left field. Braggs is going back. Is he going to run out of room? He does. This game is tied.
3 balls, 2 strikes, 1 out, bottom of the 9th. And the pitch, and base swings, slices one to right field, base hit. O'Neill's got it in a hurry. Guralt's coming to the plate. Here's the throw. Guralt's is safe. Ball game's over, and the Giants have won.
The next day, San Francisco continued its flair for ninth inning dramatics against Tom Browning.
Browning back to Anderson, and the pitch is hit high in the air to left field. Braggs at the fence. Home run. Dave Anderson has just tied the ball game with his first home run of the season.
A few innings later, the Giants burned Piniella's Reds one more time.
Myers sets. He throws, and the pitch. Little looper. Back to first. It's going to fall. Base hit. Here comes Riles. The Giants have won it again.
Well, it was a great series for us because it gave credence to the fact that our ball club was ready to make a move at the Reds and could overtake them.
There was even more than a sweep in the balance in Game 4 of the series when Scott Guraltz gazed at a no-hitter.
After winning the first 3, I pitched on Sunday, and I just wanted to keep the ball club in the game. And the next thing you know, you're going through, the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th inning, and you have a no-hitter going.
We are in the 9th inning with 1 out. Giants are leading 4-0, and Scott Guraltz has got a no-hitter. 58,365 on their feet. Hopped up, right side. Clark got it. 2 down, 1 to go. And the hitter is Paul O'Neill. O'Neill, base hit left field.
When Paul O'Neill got the base hit, I wasn't that disappointed because at that point in time, the game was more important than the no-hitter.
High fly ball, left field. 5.5 back. Giants sweep the Reds.
Maybe it'll take 2 or 3 years to settle in and say, wow, you wish, you could have got the no-hitter, but we need to come in and play well against Cincinnati. And at that point, we really felt, we're still in it.
The battle plans were being drawn, and on August 1st, as Don Robinson defeated the Dodgers for career win number 100, the Giants mixed the excitement of a pennant race with another thrilling occasion.
Very fine victory for the Giants, and it's the first of 5, as we mentioned. They're going to go to Candlestick for Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon. So big weekend series for the Giants at Candlestick Park.
Yeah, it really is. But before we even talk more about baseball, everybody at Sports Channel, I'll be the spokesman, wishing you the best this weekend. And we certainly will be thinking about you. Good luck.
Thank you very much. I'm going to miss being there with this big series with the Dodgers, but I'm looking forward to going to Cooperstown.
5'7", 155 pounds, but Joe Morgan played a lot bigger, belting more career homers than any other second baseman in history, 266. And now Joe's a Hall of Famer.
I wish, I could say that this is, the culmination of all my dreams and things like that, but truthfully, I never dreamed about making the Hall of Fame. I only dreamed about making it to the major leagues. And when I made it to the major leagues, that was great. The Hall of Fame is really just icing on what has been a very big and filling cake for me.
As Joe Morgan felt elation in Cooperstown, Dodger skipper Tommy Lasorda must have had quite opposite emotions when the Giants center fielder provided this defensive spark.
John Burkett
First pitch to Daniels. Butler on the run, reaches up, and he got it! Yes! What a catch. Nice going, Bugsy.
The Giants took 3 of 5 to move within 3.5 games of first as a cat-quick Butler caught the Dodgers napping.
So there's a fly ball right field. Backing up is Brooks in front of the fence and makes the catch. Butler tags at second. As Brooks started to walk the ball in, and Butler's heading for the plate. Here's the throw. Butler scores!
Butler served up another first-class season as the Giants' table setter. Brett batted .309, tied for the league lead in base hits, and ranked third in runs scored, bases on balls, and triples. Truly one of the National League's best center fielders, and when it comes to getting on base, he's tough to stop.
I don't think there's a better leadoff hitter in this league, and I don't know where we'd be without him. I always tell him it's just as important for him to score 100 runs as it is for a Matt Williams or a Will Clark or Kevin Mitchell to drive in 100 runs.
Brett scored 90 or more runs for 7 straight seasons and was 4th in the league in stolen bases with 51. At age 32, Bugsy's still going strong.
To me, as a leadoff man, my job is to get on base, but you cannot think individually. That's one thing about the character of this ball club is each guy plays individually, but it's an individual, collective effort, and that's why the San Francisco Giants have been so successful.
Another reason is the Giants' strength up the middle. At shortstop and at second, Jose Uribe and Robbie Thompson. The Giants turn double plays with great consistency, ranking second in the league by turning 148. Second baseman Robbie Thompson also carried some heavy lumber, enjoying his best power production yet, 56 RBIs and 15 round trippers.
That one is hit in the air to left field. He got one way back. Watch it. Goodbye. Home run. Giants lead 6-5.
San Francisco hoped to communicate similar results in a 4-game August meeting against the Reds in Cincinnati, but Don Robinson was knocked out of the box after 2 1/3 innings. Paul O'Neill belted 2 home runs. Throughout the season, he'd hit 5 homers against Robinson. Kelly Downs, making his first appearance of the year, was also taken downtown, and the Reds won the series opener 7-0. Game 2, the Giants bounced back to take a 4-2 win, defeating Jose Rijo. But in Game 3 of the series, San Francisco took a nasty tumble. The Reds' 6-4 win prompted Lou Piniella to predict another victory in the finale. But at first, things go the Giants' way. But the tide turned as the Reds mounted a comeback. The picture looked even bleaker in the 9th with 2 outs and Randy Myers pitching. Cincinnati won 6-5, building their lead to 6.5 games, and the Giants' pennant hopes are, for all practical purposes, extinguished.
Okay, if we would have done this or if we could have done that, it would have been a better season. But all in all, if you look at the team, like I said, and us having 52 different players, I think the 1967 Mets used something like 50 or 51 players, and they were 40 games out of first place.
11 different players were on the disabled list. Yet despite the injuries, it's amazing how competitive San Francisco remained. One of the true Giant standouts, despite physical ailments of his own, was Kevin Mitchell.
I knew I had something to prove. I just tried to go out there and have myself a solid year and just show a lot of people Kevin Mitchell is for real.
Swing on and hit deep to left field. If it's fair, it's gone. It is going, gone.
You never can be satisfied in this game.
Mitchell deep to left and forget it.
You know, I just want to be gritty, have a better year than what I had the year before.
Kevin Mitchell hits the ball to deep left center field. Way back, this baby is tied. Goodbye, home run.
Kevin hit 35 homers, drove in 93 runs, and batted .290. Yet after an '89 season in which he smashed 47 homers and drove in 125 runs, Mitchell was determined to match those MVP numbers, and he might have, if not for injuries.
This year it's been a bad year for me, I feel. I went out there and I put up some decent numbers, but it wasn't the type of numbers that I want it because of my injury, so you know, I'm not using no excuses, but the hand bothered me a lot where it hindered me from doing what I wanted to do and get the pitches like I can.
Mitch's work ethic was top grade. During one stretch, he smashed 10 homers in 2 weeks. And in May, Kevin had a day worthy of say hey.
Here's the 2-0. And this one is belted way back into center field. Take a right on that one. And that baby is way out of here. Mitchell to right field. Bonilla going back. He's on the track. He's looking up. Home run number 3 for Kevin Mitchell. Well, he's putting on a show, folks, and we're just glad to be here to watch it.
The Giants are committed to Kevin Mitchell, and if all goes well, the next 4 years will bear out the fact that the powerful man with the nickname of Boogie Bear will one day be thought of as an all-time Giant great.
Roger Craig and Al Rosen has made a home for me here, and all I want to do now is just go out there and put up numbers for him and try to get him another pennant.
But what about the rising stars of the future? New faces who will help fulfill San Francisco's pennant hopes. Well, modesty aside, the Giants are simply burgeoning with great young talent.
We're loaded with good young prospects, and you've seen a couple of them. Steve Decker, a catcher who came out of Double-A, and actually better here at the Major League level than he was at Double-A from my perspective.
Here comes Williams digging around hard, and he'll come in to score. Give Steve Decker his 8th RBI of the season.
Mike Benjamin is definitely a big league shortstop. If you see him play on a daily basis, you'll see that he's going to make plays that other shortstops just aren't going to make.
Benjamin, can he make the throw? He does. He got him. What a play.
Last season's call to arms gave pitchers like Mark Dewey a chance to display their talents. Dewey struck out 11 in 22 innings. Rafael Navoa was also called up from Double-A. And finally, the injured veterans returned. A healthy Kevin Bass rejoined the Giants in September. It made Boogie Bear boogie. Norm Sherry probably could have danced with joy to see Big Daddy back in action, 40-year-old Rick Ruschel. But perhaps the San Francisco Giant who displayed the most perseverance in the face of serious personal problems was Steve Bedrosian, the 1990 Willie Mack Award winner. Steve showed great character in the face of his son's illness. Little Cody was a big inspiration himself.
Well, there's no doubt about it. I say my family and I have gone through some adversity this year. Cody was diagnosed with leukemia in early April, and it kind of put a damper on things for a while. I tried to stay with it as best as I could baseball-wise. I wish I could have been a little bit more productive on the field, but of course family comes first.
Steve also helped establish the Cody Bedrosian Fund for youngsters who must cope with the dreaded illness, leukemia.
Nobody really knows how you handle that situation until it happens to you, and I thought he handled it extremely well. I know it bothered him. I know it bothered his performance, and next year, hopefully, this thing will work itself out, and he'll become a pitcher that we know he can.
Without them, I don't know if I could have made it through it, really, through their support, not only financially to the Cody Bedrosian Fund, but picking me up when I have bad days, and that's what it's all about here as a family, is when people go through some adversity, to have teammates that can help you through it.
We're all pulling for you, Cody. The second-place Dodgers were in town for the next to final series of the year. The Giants were intent on taking care of business. 9th inning, Will Clark on third, score tied, no outs.
Oh, gets away, runners coming to the plate. Clark, it's over. A wild pitch by Jim Gott. And the Giants have beaten the Dodgers 7-6.
The next day, with rain falling in Cincinnati, Reds fans were rooting for the Giants to beat L.A. one more time. And on the mound for the final call to arms, Steve Bedrosian.
Bedrosian winds, the 0-2 pitch. Lines at first, the ball game is over. And so too is the season for the Dodgers, as they have been officially eliminated from the race to the National League West.
We had a very good year for what happened to us this year, but hopefully 91 will be different in that we'll all run out there as a team for 162 games, and we'll whoop up on some people.
Well, it seems to be even-numbered years we have off here, so I think 91 is going to be a good one.
I think there can only be improvement, and hopefully we will stay healthy, and there's no reason we can't challenge or win the division next year. I'm still looking for my first World Series ring, and I think 1991 was a great number to do it in.
This city has always had a winning team. I think this year wasn't, our turn. Look at the 49ers, and you got the other team over across the bay. That's a very awesome team over there. I feel that we got a good enough team just to be there, too.
Well, Bill, that was our story. What about you?
Well, the A's had a pretty good year, Dwayne, but to understand our spring training, we first have to go back to October of 1989. The A's were the world champions. The only question now was, could they repeat? Not content to rest on their laurels, the A's worked hard in the spring of 1990. Their formidable pitching staff was fortified with the addition of Scott Sanderson. And with the rest of the team pretty much intact, manager Tony La Russa laid down the philosophy his A's would strive to adhere to.
Forget the contentment and the comfort. Let's stay focused, because that's been a big plus for us for 2 years. The thing that I think the most of, or I give the most credit, is that we've got a whole roster full of guys that like to compete and are willing to compete from first day to last day.
But before they focused on the future, a reminder of the past was in order, as the A's first received their rings, and then set out to defend what they stood for. It's the first day that goes a long way toward setting the tone for the season, which is why the A's are so fortunate to have the maestro. Dave Stewart has a habit of winning opening day games. And against Minnesota, Dave Henderson provided him with plenty of support with a home run and 3 RBIs. Harry Steinbach followed Henderson's blast with one of his own, as the A's won 8-3. Oakland's first call to arms of the year had been answered in typical Stewart style. But how would this show play on the road? Well, the A's found out in early April as they whisked into Seattle and swept 3 straight.
The ideal thing is to get off fast and then build on that.
Next up, Anaheim, where twice they played the Angels and twice they won.
We reflect Tony, and I think that has a lot to do with Tony getting off like we did.
Across the continent to Baltimore, where the Orioles were no match in the A's 3-game sweep.
As far as chemistry is concerned, we're ready to go at the beginning of the 90 season.
Finally, Boston, where after recording another win on enemy fields, the A's had but one more stop on their way to an April record of 10-2 on the road. Speaking of sweeps, Stewart's 5 wins in April of 1990 made him 19-0 in that month, dating back to 1987.
I think it has a lot to do with conditioning, you know, coming into the season, being ready to pitch, you know, trying to be a little bit ahead of the hitters, because it's going to take the hitters a little while to get started. And I'm aware of that, so I just try to take advantage of each and every situation that's given to me. And April is the time of year that if you're going to get a jump on the hitters and on the league, that's when you got to do it.
Here it is. Struck him out. Another curveball swinging and missing.
Nice stop by Dave Stewart. Underhand flip over there, and Dave is a multi-dimensional athlete in the middle of that diamond. Fork ball, strike 3 call. Mr. April, Dave Stewart.
But after forging a 22-6 record by the early days of May, the A's simply did not look like themselves. They lost 4 games in a row, and 6 out of 8, proving to the world that they were human after all. You'd get no argument from Oakland. Everyone was gunning for them, and the only way to scare them off would be for the A's to make a little noise of their own. And so, the A's traded Stan Javier to the Dodgers for veteran infielder Willie Randolph. It wasn't a huge trade, but in the midst of change, the A's got hot. They won 6 straight games to lift their record to 30-12. And there's one big reason why the A's started winning. This guy.
This guy is so hot, it's unbelievable.
He is arguably the most talented player in all of baseball. And when his bat is flaming, he changes the way we look at the game.
I'm going to turn all your balls pink now.
During that 6-game stretch in late May, Jose had 16 RBIs. He finished the month with a .353 average, 13 homers, and 35 RBIs.
My performance has not surprised me. The reason is the hard work and the determination I really put into it. You know, I've said this many times. I'm just learning the game. I'm 25 years old. I think year in, year out, I've become a better, much improved player, and it seems like it's definitely showing.
Let's that baby go. Way over the fence, into the Yankee bullpen. That's got to have a flat side on it. Oh, my goodness.
I'm a big power hitter, and you have to get sort of accustomed to that. I mean, you see here in batting practice, I'll hit balls 450, 500 feet consistently,
So it's no surprise that other teams take notice when Jose takes his cuts.
Jose hits one way back into left field. The left fielder Bichette is only watching. Holy Toledo, what a tremendous home run. What can you say about that blast?
Nothing that hasn't already been said as Jose continues to blow the American League away. But if Canseco is the prototype of power, It's the picture-perfect leadoff man who gives him the means to an end. Rickey Henderson hit a career-high .325 in 1990, led the league in runs, and created havoc every day with his speed.
I think you got to have an idea on what you're doing when you're out on the base pass. There's a lot of guys in the game have great speed, but if you don't have an idea on what you want to do when you get on the base pass, you're not going to be a great base stealer.
Anderson's got a big lead at first, and he is gone. They'll never get him. Man alive.
Henderson had his sights on Ty Cobb, the American League's stolen base leader. And on May 26th, Rickey tied Cobb with his 892nd stolen base. Then, 3 days later against Toronto, he left Cobb behind.
Rickey's going, pitch inside, he steals third without a throw. And Rickey Henderson surpasses the all-time mark of Ty Cobb, pulls the bag from its moorings at third, and listen to them.
Henderson went on to steal 936 bases, just 2 shy of Lou Brock's all-time Major League record. And in all likelihood...
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report. Dennis Eckersley of the Oakland A's has given up a walk. That's right, Dennis Eckersley has just given up a walk. His first in 52 innings, 185 batters, and almost 11 months. Repeating, Dennis Eckersley has given up a walk. We now return you to your program. This has been a special Eyewitness News report.
It was also in mid-June, still another event took place that shook the baseball world, as Nolan Ryan and the Rangers came to town.
2-0 pitch. Swung on, lifted in the air, right field. Sierra over, foul territory, makes the catch. Nolan Ryan has pitched the 6th no-hitter of his remarkable career as he shuts out the A's at 5-0, striking out 14 in the process. And on June 11th, 1990, let it be recorded that at 9:56, another notch of Nolan Ryan baseball history entered the record books.
And let it be known that Oakland fans appreciate a great performance when they see one. For in Ryan's first appearance at the Coliseum since 1977, they went wild. The A's had forged a 39-19 record by mid-June, but were just 2 games up on the White Sox.
If we're successful in this series, then it will certainly help us down the road. But if we're not successful in the series, it's not going to turn our season around either. We're just in a stage right now where we're on the move, we're improving, and we're hoping that that continues.
It did in the first of a 4-game series, as Chicago won to move within 1 game. But then, along came Bob Welch, one of the 6 stoppers Oakland features on its starting staff. And here, on June 15th, he was already in search of his 10th win. And thanks to Steinbach's clutch 2-run single in the 8th, Welch got his 10th victory, and Oakland got to regain its 2-game lead. Chicago fans could barely watch the 3rd game, as the A's sent 13 batters to the plate in the first.
Another base hit to right field. In comes Howard. Weiss is rounding third. He's heading home. The throw's going to be there. Too late.
The A's won 12-3, and White Sox fans were none too pleased. Then, in the final game of the series, Dave Henderson showed he hadn't lost his touch.
There's a high drive to deep left field. Dave Henderson is still hitting them out of sight into the upper deck, and the A's have tied it up on Hindu's bat.
Simply put, the Windy City had become Bash City.
McGuire hits one very high to left. Take it right at the wall. It is gone.
They came, they saw, they conquered, and left town with a 4-game lead. But just 4 days later, it was Oakland's turn to play host to the left-for-dead White Sox, and things did not go well for the home team. Eric King shut down the A's on just 6 hits and didn't allow a runner past second base. Who was laughing now as the White Sox won 5-0 and in their quest to catch the A's closed to within 3? Game 2, and things got nasty. Chicago won and cut the lead to 2. Game 3. Now it was Stewart's turn to play the role of stopper, and for a time, he did just that. But in the 4th, the White Sox took a 2-0 lead and carried it into the 9th. Then, with 1 on and 2 out, Henderson breathed a little life back into the A's.
Swung on, long drive, way back left center, Johnson at the warning track, it is gone, a home run, holy Toledo, I don't believe it, tie game.
When Hendu hit his blast, Stewart was in the clubhouse, icing down his arm, thinking the game was over. But La Russa had him hold the ice and come back out to pitch the 10th. Unfortunately, he had to deal with the red-hot White Sox. Superman had proven mortal, and the A's, swept at home for the first time in more than 2 years, now had a 1-game lead. But just 5 days later in Toronto, the memories of Chicago were left to rest in peace. For in his very next start, Stewart raised his game to yet another level. It was a 12-strikeout performance, one laden with fine defensive plays. And as Stewart went into the 9th, he found himself in search of his first career no-hitter.
The Blue Jays 1 out left here. 5-0 A's. Swung on, high drive, center field. Dave Henderson signaling, it's mine, it's mine. It is, and it's a no-hitter for Dave Stewart in the Sky Dome this June 29th, 1990. The 5th no-hitter in the history of the Oakland Athletics, and it comes 6 years and 9 months to the day since the last one pitched by Mike Warren in 1983.
At mid-season, the A's were 51-31, and their representation at the All-Star game was a powerful show of strength.
You boys are too big for me.
There were starting pitchers and leadoff men and coaches and relievers and home run hitters, all from the A's. Welch was the starting pitcher in his first All-Star game in a decade and allowed just 1 hit in 2 innings of work. And with the American League on top, 2-0 in the 9th, Dennis Eckersley came on to routinely record the save, giving this one to the American League with straight A's. And so, the A's began the second half of the year, the same way as the first, adhering to a motto that fits them to a T.
That was something that Carney was thinking about. Those T-shirts came from him. Don't get satisfied with what you've already done. Stay focused and let's go hard at it again from spring training right on. Play 162 hard games again.
It's a philosophy of hard work and hustle, one that can be traced to La Russa.
Strike one pitch. Tough play. He's got to make a great one, and he does not. Safe.
You don't see anybody that just stands around and doesn't do anything. They all have a great work ethic.
What pushes everybody on this team is just pride in what they do.
No one questions people how they work around here because they respect one another, and everybody knows what job they have to do.
The hard work that we are applying to ourselves, I think we'll be able to do it this year.
But for all their discipline, the A's had just a one-game lead, and that made for some exciting games in July.
Swung on, that ball is hit high and deep to center field. It's gone! A home run for Ricky Henderson with one out in the 10th inning, and the A's defeat the California Angels 7-6.
The 1-2 pitch. Swung on line drive, base hit right field. Around third is Blankenship, heading for the plate. He will come in to score, and the A's win it 1-0.
Of course, if Oakland fans thought the scenery looked the same with each new win, imagine how they felt when the A's called up Jose's identical twin brother, Ozzie. Ozzie and Jose certainly look alike, and walk alike, and talk alike. It's been said at times they feel alike, and throw alike. And like all good brothers, they share alike. But would you believe that sometimes they think alike?
Ribs that one to left field, and that's a fair ball off the wall. He hit it so hard, he's going to have to hustle for his double. That ball's there ahead of him, and he is out by a mile.
Well, here's proof. Same game, same base. But is it the same Canseco? You make the call.
Henderson rounding third and heading home. Ozzie's going to try for two. Jose was thrown out down there, and so was Ozzie.
It's enough to make you lose your mind when Cansecos are two of a kind. Of course, anytime the A's are winning, one man who's almost always in the picture is Mark McGwire. And on August 15th against Boston, he earned a very special place in baseball history. 10th inning, tie game, and the bases are loaded.
Randolph, the runner, that's the big one at third. McGwire hits a high drive, deep to left field, way back. Grand slam, Mark McGwire. Holy Toledo. The first man in history to hit 30 homers in each of his first 4 seasons. Mark this in your memory book.
I think that was the first person ever in the history to hit 30 or more in the first 4 years. It's quite amazing, to tell you the truth, especially how I did it, you know, a grand slam to win it. That was a special day, sure.
Every year, pitchers are working harder and harder to get him out, and he's still able to do that. Tells a great deal about his ability, number one, but more importantly, the strength of character that he has and the type of competitor he is.
McGwire has averaged 38 home runs in his first 4 full seasons, and more than 100 RBIs.
McGwire's RBI total soars to 74.
But you don't become a 4-time All-Star on offense alone, and neither did McGwire.
Ground ball hit hard. Fair over first. Great play by McGuire. Throws. Sanderson gets there in time.
Consistently spectacular and spectacularly consistent. The stuff from which superheroes are made. Two days after McGuire's heroics, on August 17th, Bob Welch made some history of his own, winning his 20th game faster than any pitcher since Wilbur Wood in 1973.
He struck him out, and what a great way to pitch for Bob Welch.
After winning 17 2 seasons in a row, Bob recorded the first 20-win season in his 12-year career and modestly gave credit to the team behind him.
I feel proud to be a 20-game winner and a part of a first-place ball club, which kind of makes it more special. You know, it's a situation where, our team is playing good, solid baseball lately, and we have an opportunity to do something very special as a group.
Bob went on to win 27 games, the most in the majors and the most in the American League since Denny McLain in 1968. His newfound forkball had to play a role.
Yeah, you got to be thinking fastball here. Maybe that pitch, that mystery pitch to Fisk. Wow, got him.
I think the biggest thing this year is that we've mixed in a forkball, and it's kept the hitters off balance from the fastball. He's a quality pitcher. He's got a good fastball and a good curveball. Now he has a good forkball to go along with it.
Dunk kind of said, hey, I think it's a good pitch where you ought to take it out there with you and get it ready in the bullpen, that you have to use it to throw it to the very first hitter. Use it and start throwing it as a pitch that you can throw at any time and any count to any hitter. And it's something that I finally said, okay, maybe I'll use that, and now it gives me 3 pitches, so it makes it a little bit better for a guy who's not throwing as hard as once he used to.
Late August, and still Chicago showed no sign of surrender. And in the first of a crucial 3-game series with the Sox, Oakland made it easy. The A's were crushed by Chicago 11-1 and went on to lose 2 out of 3. More important, shortstop Walt Weiss was lost for 2 weeks, and center fielder Dave Henderson sprained his right knee and would miss almost a month. Things certainly looked bleak, but the A's response time was admirable, as they quickly obtained 2 of baseball's better hitters, Harold Baines and Willie McGee.
I gotta go to work, man.
And as things developed, it was the new A's who gave a boost to the old A's. August 30th against Kansas City.
Line drive down the left field line. That's a base hit. Hit Randolph around third, and the A's are going to win it in the bottom of the ninth.
August 31st against Texas, and newcomer Willie McGee on first.
It's thrown to first, and it's thrown wildly down the right field line. Bouncing into the bullpen. Look at McGee's streak. He's around second. He's heading for third. Blackman has him coming. Here comes the throw. He's in, standing up. Holy Toledo. Happy debut. Willie.
It was also in this game that Eckersley achieved a milestone with a 40-save season for the second time in his career. In his 3rd season strictly in relief, the Eck has saved 126 games in 143 chances, making him the most feared reliever in the game.
I try to have presence on the mound, and I think that helps, that works, because I think that hitters can sense a pitcher when he's not real confident. And so I try to play the part. And so if that's playing with their psyche, I do that.
What he also does is throw strikes. In the past 2 seasons, he's walked just 7 batters in 131 innings, one of them intentionally.
Here it comes. He struck him out. Fastball swinging.
Now the 2-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. He struck him out on the slider.
Coming in a game in relief, you can't walk people. You know, you have to go right at people. The first guy you come in, you got to get him out. You can't be trying to nibble.
Stretch, pitch. He struck him out, and the A's win the ball game at X-A's Welch's 25th, battling hard in a tough struggle in the 9th inning.
By pitching standards, he does everything perfect. He comes in the ball game, he throws strikes, he allows his defense to play behind him, he works fast, he's on time. Dennis Eckersley is a pitcher's dream.
Even more so, he's a manager's dream. A man in whom you can entrust the ball game, time after time, and know he'll get the job done.
I have to believe in my ability and my stuff, and I just have to go after people. And we have good defense, so that helps.
By early September, the A's were back on top by 6½. The Sox showed signs of slipping. And so, for the old and new A's, it was time for a playoff preview.
We do a great job of getting ready to play each series all year long. That's how you click off a lot of wins. So when we went to Boston, we didn't have to do anything different.
Which means, of course, they did a lot of things right.
He hits that ball pretty deep. You won't have to run hard either. There she goes.
In Game 1, the A's were up 5-0 before the end of the third. And then left the game in the more than capable hands of Scott Sanderson.
Whoa, I can't believe it.
Sanderson had answered the A's call to arms with both substance and style. After more than 11 big league seasons, he'd won a career-high 17 games.
I think that if somebody had come and told me in the beginning of spring, Scott Sanderson's going to make every start, get you through the 5th, into the 6th and 7th inning as many times as he has, and have 16 victories behind his name in the middle of September, I'd have been very happy, and I'm very happy with Scott Sanderson.
Game 2 brought the matchup of Stewart and Roger Clemens. And a double by Harold Baines in the first put the A's in familiar territory. In fact, by the time Stewart came into the picture in the bottom of the first, the A's had a 2-0 lead. Stewart went on to record his 6th consecutive victory over Clemens, who, it appeared, was starting to feel some of the pressure of not being able to beat Stewart or the A's.
That ball gets through Pena, and on to score is McGee. A free ride around the bases for Willie McGee. Joe Morgan knows against Dave Stewart. That's a big run.
With a 6-2 lead in the 9th, it was simply a matter of turning the game over to Eckersley. And over the Red Sox, the A's had their 2nd straight win. Now the A's were looking to sweep, and the following night, Bob Welch drove home the psychological stake with a shutout. The A's took no prisoners.
There goes one, though. That's deep, and that's gone. Long gone, and hard to find a home run for McGuire.
10-0 was the final score. But it would be another month before the real damage done by the A's 3-game sweep would be seen. The pressure was basically off the A's when they met Kansas City on September 25th. They had an 8-game lead, a magic number of 2, and their ace on the mound. The A's did everything right.
Stewart's got that ball, flips it to McGuire. Nice play, Dave.
Then, in the course of the game, the A's magic number dropped to 1.
It is all over. The White Sox have lost tonight, 4-3 to the Twins, so stand by to see what happens here. And here it comes. That might be it right there. Who's going to take it? Ricky Henderson or Darren Lewis? It's Darren Lewis. It is all over. The A's have won as Dave Stewart pumps his right hand up in the air. McGuire and all the teammates come out to shake the hands of the money man of the A's, Dave Stewart. Let's just watch in on the fun here.
For the second time since divisional play began, Oakland had won 3 straight division titles, but there was much more to be done.
We in the playoff now. We got to go and stay focused to win the playoff and get to the World Series.
We got a lot of work ahead of us. We got a lot of things that we need to accomplish before it's all said and done, and we still got to bust our tails, and we're going to get to it.
$1 scorecard program, hot off the presses for the playoffs. $1 scorecard program rosters here.
Boston will win this one.
In 4.
The A's were back in Fenway for the American League Championship Series. Clemens and Stewart, the money pitchers in a money matchup.
It's a high fly ball to left center field, way back, way back. It is going on the screen. Home run for Wade Boggs.
Wade Boggs hit the home run, and, that's not the end of the ball game. I was just thinking, keep us close, and we'll have a chance.
That's precisely what Stewart did. But having returned from a late season injury, Clemens was magnificent. And when he left at the end of the 6th, the Red Sox still held that 1-0 lead. But now, the A's had Boston where they wanted them. In their bullpen, a revolving door bullpen through the Oakland 7th, 8th, and 9th. The most demoralizing inning for Boston was the 9th, as the A's, led by Carney Lansford, scored 7 times and turned what had been a 2-1 nail-biter into a clean and simple knockout.
Here's the 0-1 and a shot hit to center field, base hit. 2 more runs will come across.
The 9-1 final did not bode well for Boston.
This is definitely going to be the key. The matchup, Stewart and Clemens. Stewart came out on top. Like I said before, if the kicker can't win tomorrow, they might as well forget it.
These were indeed hard times in Boston. First, they had that jinx that came from trading away the Bay, and now they had to contend with the A's. Dana Kicker gave Boston a strong starting effort, pitching 5 2/3 innings and allowing just 1 run. But again, Welch matched him pitch for pitch. And though Boston scratched a run home in the third, it could have been much worse. With the score tied in the seventh, it was almost as if Red Sox fans knew what was coming, and Harold Baines didn't disappoint.
Ground ball. Quintana makes the play. A run's going to score. Baines gets the job done and gets an RBI. And scoring is Mike Gallego, and the A's break the tie here in the seventh and take a 2-1 lead.
Then, in the ninth, with 2 men on, more Baines. Oakland won 4-1, and with a 2-game lead, headed west. They had spanned the continent, the best team in baseball. Now they were home, where their latest call to arms went to Mike Moore, who, like the rest, allowed just 1 run and got 2 RBIs from Willie Randolph.
It feels like a kid in Christmas time. I had a tough time sleeping last night. I knew that I felt good about coming to the game. My concentration level was high, and you just feel comfortable being in a situation like this. It's been a long time, but I haven't forgotten how to play winning baseball.
The A's powered to a 4-1 lead, and then rode the coattails of Gene Nelson.
Nelson spins the next one in, smashed at shortstop, backhanded by Gallego, long throw, he gets him!
Oakland had cleaned up in the postseason with 9 straight wins. Who was there to stop them from getting 1 more? Clemens, for one, who was feeling somewhat feisty. In contrast, Stewart was calm and collected, having beaten Roger 7 straight times. But while Stewart was cool, Roger lost his on a 2nd-inning pitch he thought was a strike. Roger got a shower to help him cool his fever, and Oakland got an opening to exploit.
Swung on, cracked high and deep to center. Burks has got a long run. He's not going to get there. It bounces off the center field wall. 1 run is in. Randolph is all the way around from first to score. And the A's lead by a score of 3-0.
New A's, old A's, enterprising A's. Everyone was earning straight A's. And as dreams of domination danced in the heads of A's fans, Oakland carried a 3-1 lead into the ninth, where Rick Honeycutt brought it home.
And the pitch. Line drive, 1 hot. Gallego takes it at short. Throw to first. And the A's win the pennant for the 3rd straight year.
103 regular season wins, 10 straight triumphs in the postseason. Even after 3 years, this is something that never grows old. But the formula for victory is dependent on so much. The past means nothing. Someone's always lurking. And uneasy lies the head that wears the crown.
It's not simple, and the best team doesn't necessarily always win. So you can't get overconfident. I've never been overconfident because you can fall on your face so easy in this game.
Tickets, Oakland A's tickets.
The A's did not win the 1990 World Series. They didn't, in fact, win a game. But for the past 3 years, no team in baseball has been consistently better. And no team has had better fans, adoring fans, intelligent fans, 3 million fans strong. And the Oakland A's, thank you, everyone. And so, on behalf of the 5 million Bay Area fans, here's hoping that next year, both the A's and the Giants will be back for another championship by the Bay. For Dwayne Kuiper, I'm Bill King. Thanks for watching.